봄ᴏ is working at a pizza shop, showing off her impressive pizza-making abilities to Dwon. Dwon watches in awe at her skill. When he finds himself unable to open a basic jar, 봄ᴏ steps in and lends a hand. Later on, Dwon accidentally drops and breaks a dish. 봄ᴏ quickly checks on him, making sure he's not hurt and promising to keep the mishap a secret from her father. Feeling thankful, Dwon expresses his gratitude to Kim Taek, who had helped him land the job. Kim Taek, a familiar face at the shop, had convinced the owner to hire Dwon. While watching 봄ᴏ, Dwon starts to wonder if this might be the kind of job he could stick with for the long haul. It seems ideal, so long as no rude customers come in. But just as he's thinking this, a customer aggressively confronts 봄ᴏ, demanding to know why she cares about his smoking. 봄ᴏ responds courteously, noting that other patrons are around. The customer reacts with hostility, hurling a drink at her. Enraged, Dwon charges toward the man, only to be stopped by his boss, who reassures him that 봄ᴏ is okay. Despite the incident, 봄ᴏ smiles and continues to apologize to the customer. When the customer leaves, both 봄ᴏ and her father bow and apologize again, even offering to refill his drink. The customer rudely refuses and exits. Dwon is shocked by the boss's lack of confrontation. He asks why nothing was said when 봄ᴏ was mistreated. 봄ᴏ, drying her hair with a towel, assures Dwon that she is fine. The boss sits at a table and asks Dwon if he wants to ruin their business by reacting. 봄ᴏ suggests that they all calm down and asks Dwon if he is from a different neighborhood. When Dwon confirms, she explains that a dangerous organization operates in their area, making it hard for ordinary people to recognize such individuals. She warns that they must be careful with such customers. The boss laments that he never wanted his daughter to suffer and admits he has seen many stores close after being targeted by these people. He blames himself for their situation, feeling guilty for being broke and uneducated. 봄ᴏ thanks Dwon for his concern, explaining that running the store allows her to attend school while her dad works. Dwon marvels at how mature 봄ᴏ is, despite being the same age. She then comforts her father, urging him not to cry and to get ready for the night shift. Observing this, Dwon realizes that life there is much harder than he thought. As Dwon adjusts to his job, he begins his first lesson. He and Hongil stand on a terrace, with Hongil reading a comic book. Hongil tells Dwon to start by eliminating his fear of hitting someone. Dwon, looking serious, suggests that they might not need to worry about that. Hongil hits him with the comic book, telling him not to be overconfident just because he won once. He asks if Dwon plans to throw himself at gangsters every time he fights, pointing out that Dwon still can't beat them properly. Dwon asks what he should do, and Hongil reassures him that he will reshape him. Hongil then asks if anyone from Dwon's family has come looking for him. Dwon replies that even if they find him, he has no reason to leave. Over the next few days, Hongil pushes Dwon hard, making him do push-ups, squats, sit-ups, and odd footwork exercises, all while Hongil reads comic books. Dwon begins to doubt whether this is proper training, noting that he hasn't thrown a single punch. After finishing his exercises, Dwon approaches Hongil, saying he's fine with the footwork but asking if Hongil has a guaranteed way to always win. Hongil replies that he has already shown him. Use his surroundings, stop the opponent's movements, block their vision, and look for an appropriate weapon. Finally, Hongil smiles, acknowledging that developing these instincts is difficult but encourages Dwon to keep working hard. Suddenly, Dwon shows Hongil a boxing match on his phone, expressing a desire to fight like that. Hongil stands up and tries to strike Dwon with the comic book again, but Dwon dodges. Surprised, Hongil strikes 3 more times, and Dwon dodges each one. Hongil smiles and says he will now teach Dwon how to use his fists properly. As he prepares to throw a punch, he notices the fear in Dwon's eyes. A few days later, in an abandoned warehouse, another gangster, Chun Ki-woong, is beating a man wearing a helmet with a baseball bat. 3 other men watch and ask Ki-woong what they should do about Cho Hongil, who has been going around attacking their guys. Ki-woong rests the bat on his shoulder and asks what they expect him to do. Then he places the bat on the shoulder of the man who spoke earlier, implying that they should let him handle the situation without stirring up more trouble. Suddenly, the helmet of the beaten man is removed, revealing him as the gangster responsible for the blast incident. Ki-woong tells him it's all his fault. The gangster begs for mercy, but Ki-woong shoves the bat into his mouth and tells him to stop wasting his breath on pointless pleas. Ki-woong remarks that he's never gone easy on anyone but suggests that he should step in himself to avoid getting caught by their superiors. One of the three men agrees, saying it would be easier that way. Ki-woong gives them 30 minutes to find Cho Hang-il's group, warning that he won't wait long. One of them protests that it's impossible, but Ki-woong, wearing a creepy smile, reminds them that he's still standing right there. Terrified, all three men run off to locate Hang-il's group. Two of them reach Hang-il's home and knock on the door, but there's no response. One suggests they gang up on Chun Ki-woong instead, but the other retorts that Ki-woong is worse than Cho Hang-il. They call their third companion, who is at the pizza shop. In the next scene, Do-won is walking near the pizza shop where he works part-time. He muses that it has been a while since he started working and wonders if they could switch to a weekly salary. As he approaches, he notices the shop's glass window is broken and sees a fat guy inside talking with two other men. The fat guy grabs the owner's collar and, while on a phone call, accuses him of being close to Kim Taek yet not knowing his whereabouts. The owner is being beaten by the fat guy, who then looks outside, spots Do-won, and angrily yells at him for staring. Do-won sees Nyen sitting on the ground as if someone has pushed her and clenches his teeth, declaring he will help her. Nyen, murmuring for him to run away, goes unheard by Do-won. Do-won reflects on how different Nyen is from him. She is kind, warm-hearted, and capable, unlike him, who acts recklessly without thinking. Nyen endures hardship quietly, working hard to protect the store for her father's sake. Do-won resolves to be mature like Nyen, understanding that everyone has their own way of living. Suddenly, he throws a drink bottle at the fat guy, but the man dodges it. Do-won steps through the broken pizza shop door. The fat guy demands to know who he is, and Do-won, looking at him angrily, responds that he is a regular there. In a flashback, we see that the fat guy's name is Kim Tae-young. Despite his large body being all muscle and no fat, he has never worked out a day in his life. Kim Tae-young used his natural gifts solely for violence. Unlike Do-won, he got expelled for a different reason. No one could stand up to Kim Tae-young, at least inside the school. Outside of school, only Chun Ki-woong was his natural enemy. Tae-young always thought of himself as invincible, but that notion was now being challenged. For the first time in his 17 years, he saw a strange sight, a wimpy loser daring to fight him. To him, Do-won was like a fearless puppy barking at a lion. Tae-young told Do-won to knock it off, warning that he would die if he fought him. Do-won responded, "Don't spit on the store's floor." Tae-young, thinking Do-won couldn't understand him, suddenly charged at him, saying he would make him slobber all over the floor. Seeing Tae-young coming, Do-won remembered the first rule of street fighting: use your surroundings. He pulled a table towards Tae-young, which collided with him. Do-won thought, block their movement, and then recalled Hang-il's teachings. In another flashback during Do-won's training, Hang-il trained him to punch. Hang-il threw countless punches, but Do-won didn't move, paralyzed by fear. Hang-il taunted him, asking if he had given up and was ready to run away. Do-won remained immobile. Hang-il scolded him, telling him not to space out while being punched. Hang-il then demonstrated how to punch properly, performing a dummy punch on Do-won. He explained that the left fist is used to keep the opponent in check, while the real punch is hidden behind the jab, with power flowing from the foot to the fist. Hang-il raised his hand, admitting that it was hard to use right away, but promised to watch over Do-won's form, encouraging him to keep practicing. Do-won fell to the ground, seemingly hit by the dummy punch. Back in the store, Do-won thought about the punch that had been drilled into him over the past few days. Tae-young, momentarily confused by being hit with a table, saw Do-won channel his power from his foot to his fist and land a perfect punch straight to Tae-young's head. Nyen and her father were surprised. Nyen thought that Do-won, always a friend she wanted to help, was different than usual. Do-won felt satisfied, thinking he had finally perfected the punch. Meanwhile, Dae-yob was talking to Hang-il on the phone. Dae-yob criticized Hang-il for teaching Do-won to fight and suggested that Hang-il find a part-time job if he had so much free time. Hangil replied that he didn't want to work and asked why Daewon wanted to learn how to fight, noting that Daewon's reasons sounded like that of a loser. Daeyob acknowledged this but pointed out that Daewon was learning quickly and could fight effectively. However, he questioned who Daewon could beat just by learning the basics, emphasizing that physical strength is crucial when novices fight. Back at the store, Daewon's punch does not affect Taeyong. Taeyong, surprised, asks if Daewon works out. He then throws a punch at Daewon, but Daewon dodges it. Daewon realizes that while Taeyong's movements suggest he doesn't know how to fight, it's still terrifying to evade his punches. He knows it's over if Taeyong catches him. Determined, Daewon decides he'll keep dodging and punching until Taeyong drops. He hits Taeyong multiple times, but it's like hitting a brick wall. Nothing seems to hurt him. Taeyong smiles and corners Daewon, grabbing his collar and delivering heavy punches. He taunts Daewon, saying he'll die if he continues to fight. Taeyong then grabs Daewon's neck with both hands, choking him. Daewon struggles to breathe. Suddenly, Nyen rushes in and tries to pull Taeyong off, but he pushes her, causing her to fall to the ground. Blood trickles from Daewon's mouth as he wonders if he'll ever break free from being a loser. On the other side of town, Daeyob is on the phone with Hangil. He tells Hangil that he thought Daewon would be useful because he seemed a bit unhinged. How was he supposed to know Daewon would get stabbed? He warns Hangil not to let Daewon get too full of himself, pointing out that some people can't fight even after being taught. Hangil replies that not everyone is a genius like Daeyob, but he's noticed that Daewon has a sense for it. Back in the pizza shop, Taeyong still has his grip on Daewon's neck. Suddenly, Daewon spits in Taeyong's face, remembering the second rule of street fighting: block your opponent's vision. With Taeyong's eyes temporarily blinded, Daewon takes advantage and continues punching him, but it still seems ineffective. Taeyong smiles through his temporary blindness. Daewon remembers the third rule: look for something useful around you. He grabs a drink bottle and smashes it over Taeyong's head repeatedly. Taeyong screams for him to stop. Despite his bleeding hands, Daewon keeps hitting Taeyong, thinking that this is nothing compared to being stabbed. He continues until the bottle breaks, and then Nyen approaches, telling him he can stop now. Taeyong has fainted. Nyen's dad is confused, marveling that a part-timer beat the giant Taeyong. Daewon looks at Taeyong and threatens to kill him if he sees him near the store again, vowing to rip him apart. He collapses to the ground, relieved, thinking he has finally won with his own two hands. Suddenly, Taeyong's two mates enter the shop, wondering what's going on. One of them remarks that it looks like Taeyong got knocked out. The other doubts it was Daewon and Nyen. They look at the owner and suggest maybe he's stronger than he looks. But Daewon stands up and declares that he's the one who took Taeyong down. Nyen tries to stop Daewon, worried he can barely stand, but Daewon signals her to stop. He vows to keep fighting no matter what and challenges the two men. They're confused until one of them is suddenly punched by Kim Taekong. Nyen supports her father as he stands. Daewon, surprised, asks how Taekong got there. Taekong ties his hair back with a rubber band, telling Daewon he's worked hard and that he'll handle the rest. Rolling up his sleeves, he challenges the two men, asking who wants to die first. The two men charge at Taekong, but they're quickly taken down by his heavy punches and kicks. Daewon is amazed at Taekong's strength. After knocking them out, Taekong grabs one of the men by the collar and demands to know who sent them. The man confesses that Chun Ki-woong ordered them to do everything and insists he had nothing to do with the gas incident. Taekong kicks the man unconscious and mutters that it was those guys from Haegwang. Daewon, confused, asks who they are and why they would do something like this. He remembers the gas incident and wonders if it's related to the group the gangster mentioned. Taekong explains that the area's security has been terrible for a long time, with the police having given up on dealing with endless crimes. This allowed mafia groups to grow their illegal businesses. Daewon asks if these guys are mafia. Taekong clarifies that the mafia groups were wiped out by the local delinquent group, Haegwang, who now controls the area like the mafia they replaced. Chun Ki-woong is known to be the most vicious within Haegwang, and they're likely targeting them for getting in their way. Taekong looks at the owner and asks why he didn't say anything all this time. The owner explains that it's impossible to deal with Haegwang, whose cruelty knows no bounds. He recalls seeing many shops ruined by them. The owner says he couldn't let Taekong and Daewon get more involved with those crazy guys. Taekong becomes angry. Daewon, now by Nyen's side, puts a hand on her shoulder. Nyen thanks Daewon for helping them, tears in her eyes as she admits she was scared. Meanwhile, Daeyob is returning from his job, walking down the street while talking to Taekong on the phone. Taekong informs him that Chun Ki-woong attacked the pizza shop. Daeyob becomes angry, realizing that Haegwang is trying to mess with them. Taekong says they need to take countermeasures against Haegwang, reminding Daeyob of Chun Ki-woong's danger. He tells Daeyob to take care of himself first. As Daeyob walks, he sees some guys harassing shops nearby, with an old woman and a child sitting near one store. One of the guys tries to attack the old woman with a steel rod, but Daeyob intercepts, grabbing the rod and preventing the attack. He punches the guy in the face. One of the other harassers recognizes Daeyob and warns the others that they're dealing with him. They claim to be from Haegwang. Daeyob charges at them, declaring his name. After some time, Daeyob has beaten and knocked out all the guys. He turns to check on the old woman, asking if she's okay. She points behind him, and suddenly, Daeyob is struck on the head with a bat by Ki-woong. At Hang-ail's house, Tae-kei desperately wants to help the pizza place because he considers their pizza very delicious. The others jokingly agree with him and decide to help defend the pizza place. Everyone gets a message about Daeyob being captured and brutally beaten up, along with the location of the abandoned factory where he is being held. They immediately head there to rescue their precious friend. Before the runaway family arrives at the factory, Tae-kei gives Do-jin the option to leave, thinking he would be a liability and hold them back. Despite this, Do-jin shows up because he wants to help Daeyob. At the factory, they find 15 Haegwang members, but there are only 4 of them. In reality, it's more like 3, since Do-jin is seen as useless. Ki-woong welcomes them by smacking and stepping on Daeyob right in front of them. Ga-young tells Ki-woong to stop acting tough and mentions how ugly he looks. Ki-woong orders his guys to shut them up. The fight begins, and while Do-jin stands frozen, Tae-kei and Ga-young prove they are on equal footing with Ki-woong's men, easily fending them off. Do-jin tries to protect Ga-young, thinking she is fragile, but she shoves him aside and uses her flexibility to compensate for her lack of strength. Realizing all 3 of them are strong, Do-jin calculates that they've already beaten half of Ki-woong's men. Seeing enough, Ki-woong approaches Tae-kei with his metal bat. Meanwhile, Do-jin struggles to even throw a punch at one of Ki-woong's regular men. He tries to use his surroundings to gain an upper hand but ends up being taken hostage due to his inexperience. Proving himself a liability, the fight pauses as Ki-woong demands that the runaway family kneel if they want to see Do-jin alive. Tae-kei refuses to surrender, and Do-jin tells him to leave him behind if he becomes a burden. However, Do-jin's recklessness shows when he stops a shard of glass with his bare hands. Impressed, Tae-kei realizes that Do-jin is the wildest and craziest among them. Do-jin defeats his captor and tries to stop the blood flow from his wounds. The others are shocked to see that Tae-kei has single-handedly defeated Ki-woong. With Ki-woong on his knees, Tae-kei begins a victory speech, but Ki-woong interrupts, saying the fight isn't over. Ki-woong gets up to attack again. While he uses his metal bat, Tae-kei is bare-handed, making it an unfair fight. Tae-kei looks for an opportunity to launch a decisive move to end the fight quickly, but Ki-woong is one step ahead and uses his men to catch Tae-kei from behind. After starting to beat him up, Do-jin comes from behind and uses a wooden plank to strike Ki-woong on the head. However, the blow barely does any damage and only makes Ki-woong even more furious. Approaching Do-jin with a menacing aura, Ki-woong asks if he wants to die. Paralyzed by fear, Do-jin realizes he has never fought anyone so violently and cannot bring himself to move. Ki-woong wastes no time, striking Do-jin with his bat, making him gag. With one shot to the belly, Do-jin falls to the ground, admitting defeat. Despite his minimal contribution, Do-jin's actions buy the runaway family enough time to defeat Ki-woong's men. The trio then charges at Ki-woong from 3 different sides, their excellent teamwork briefly neutralizing his movements. However, Ki-woong's strength allows him to break free, remaining unharmed no matter what the trio throws at him. He mocks them for their weakness and offers them one last chance to give up and work under him. Ji-young retorts, asking if he's hit his head, and declares she would rather die than serve someone so ugly. In response, Ki-woong summons dozens more men and finally defeats Tae-kei and his friends. He tells Tae-kei that he's sending someone to burn his favorite pizza place to the ground. Before he can make the call, Do-jin crawls up and bites his leg, unwilling to let Nyen and her father suffer. Do-jin bites as hard as he can until Ki-woong shoves him away with his bat. Ki-woong proceeds to call the person to burn the pizza place, but the call is answered by Han-gil. Han-gil has already beaten up the person tasked with the arson and vows to show no mercy for hurting his friends. Ki-woong, who originally thought Han-gil had run away like a scaredy cat, is greatly amused to see him standing there. Han-gil surveys Tae-kei and the others, realizing they must have been beaten badly to be in such a state. He remarks that it's been a while since he has seen Tae-kei in such a sorry condition. Han-gil tells Ki-woong that he won't leave in one piece after what he did to his family. A brainless thug, underestimating Han-gil, attacks him, thinking he's all bark and no bite. But Han-gil quickly demonstrates that he's in a completely different league. He provokes the others to attack, but as they witness his skill, Ki-woong's men grow too scared to move. To motivate them, Ki-woong places a $1,000 bounty on Han-gil's head. Using his ultra instinct and human adaptability, Han-gil picks up anything he can find, turning it into a weapon, as he takes down his opponents one by one. Do-jin, barely conscious, watches in awe at Han-gil's abilities. Realizing he's losing, Ki-woong threatens to break Tae-kei's arm. But Han-gil remains unfazed, continuing to overpower Ki-woong's men. Tae-kei, despite his pain, tells Ki-woong that Han-gil isn't someone who can be swayed by threats. If he were, he wouldn't have made it this far. Determined, Ki-woong breaks Tae-kei's arm in an effort to make Han-gil regret his decision. But Han-gil remains resolute, slowly but surely closing in on Ki-woong. Ki-woong recalls a warning from his boss, who had said that Han-gil was as strong as the Haegwang leader and had specifically advised him to avoid Han-gil at all costs. His boss had even stressed the importance of leaving Han-gil alone if he got in their way. But Ki-woong, disregarding this advice, had now provoked Han-gil and had to face the consequences. When Ki-woong charges, Han-gil effortlessly dodges his attacks, continuing to dismantle his men. He informs Ki-woong that he's no match for him, swiftly knocking him down with a few precise punches. But Han-gil isn't done. He demands that Ki-woong get back up. Ki-woong tries a surprise attack, only to have his arm broken in the process. Han-gil accuses him of orchestrating the gas incident and attacking Dae-yob, claiming that eliminating him would be for the best. Ki-woong threatens to inform his boss about Han-gil, but Han-gil, undeterred, moves closer to the fire pit, signaling that the end is near for Ki-woong. Ki-woong recalls why his boss feared Han-gil. He never finished things easily after defeating someone. Proving his boss right, Han-gil grabs Ki-woong and shoves his head into the fire pit. Ki-woong screams, begging for mercy, but Han-gil coldly reminds him that he started this conflict and must face the consequences. Han-gil tells him that if Do-jin hadn't woken up during the gas incident, his friends would have died. He chastises Ki-woong for underestimating them, calling him weak and incompetent for bringing this upon himself. After inflicting a second-degree burn on Ki-woong's face, Han-gil releases him. Ki-woong continues to scream in pain, but Han-gil silences him by forcing his foot into his mouth. Do-jin watches, shocked by the ruthless side of Han-gil he's never seen before. Han-gil then approaches Dae-yob and gently taps his cheeks to rouse him, but Dae-yob is still unconscious. Without hesitation, Han-gil hoists him onto his back. He looks over at Do-jin with a grin, telling him they can head home now. Thanks to Han-gil's efforts, the runaway family survives their fight against Haegwang, emerging victorious. However, their troubles are far from over. Dae-yob, Do-jin, Tae-kei, Ga-young, and Song-bin are admitted to the hospital, recovering from their injuries. With no one able to work, financial struggles quickly follow. In a show of gratitude, the pizza place owner steps in to cover their hospital bills. Meanwhile, Haegwang lies low, but rumors spread that Han-gil was responsible for taking down Ki-woong. Do-jin, believing everything is over, is quickly corrected by Han-gil, who warns that Haegwang will be back soon. He explains that there are others in Haegwang even stronger than Ki-woong, and someone will likely come to take Kiwoong's place and seek revenge. Han-gil gives them two choices: leave the neighborhood quietly to avoid further trouble or stay and prepare for what's to come. Dae-yob, recalling that it was Han-gil who led them here, urges him to choose the best course of action. He reminds Han-gil that they have nowhere else to go. Han-gil, lost in thought, heads to the roof to clear his mind. Do-jin follows, his steps hesitant. Do-jin asks if there's a way to get stronger faster. Han-gil thinks he's progressing quickly enough but listens as Do-jin explains that, while he's changed, he still feels like a liability. He expresses a desire to become as strong as Han-gil and the others, to be able to stand his ground when Haegwang inevitably returns. Han-gil, seeing Do-jin's determination, considers a more intense but faster training method for him. Meanwhile, the pizza place enjoys a temporary peace, free from the looming threat of Haegwang. The owner hopes that this calm will last longer. Do-jin returns to work and notices Nyen coming back from school. Although something seems to be bothering her, she casually asks him out on a date. Do-jin, unaware of the implications, agrees. They plan to meet in front of the pizza place, but Nyen doesn't show up. Thinking something might have happened, Do-jin heads to her school, dressed like a bad boy under Dae-yob's influence, and waits for her. Standing there, he feels a strange sense of nostalgia, remembering his own days as a student. He feels like he's in a completely different world from the students around him. Just then he spots Nyen. 3 guys are surrounding her, and the most handsome of the trio steps forward, proposing to her. He gives her a teddy bear, but she immediately spots the hidden camera inside. Without hesitation, she tosses it away. The guy, now showing his true, despicable nature, attempts to force his way with her. Do-jin arrives just in time to stop him. The handsome, yet vile guy, mockingly dismisses Do-jin's words, calling them cliched. He pushes Do-jin away and grabs Nyen, intending to take her with him. But Do-jin punches Dong-ae in the nose, causing blood to spill. Enraged, Dong-ae retaliates, knocking Do-jin down and asserting his dominance as a bully. However, Do-jin gets back up, taunting Dong. Realizing they've attracted too much attention on school grounds, Dong-ae decides to end the confrontation. Before leaving, he tells Do-jin that he will remember his face and warns they will meet again soon. Do-jin, still shaken, and Nyen try to forget the incident as they head to a nearby coffee shop to continue their date. Once inside, Do-jin asks Nyen if she's often harassed by people like Dong. Sensing her hesitation, he opens up, sharing his own painful experience of being bullied in school. He explains how he never confided in anyone, thinking it would cause trouble for others. In hindsight, he wishes he had spoken up sooner. He tells Nyen that bottling everything up will only lead to an explosion, and he promises to help her so she doesn't suffer in silence like he once did. Nyen, overwhelmed by his support, bursts into tears and reveals the extent of her harassment. She shares how she and Dong-ae were friends at the start of the school year, believing he was a nice, charming guy. But then, one day, he touched her inappropriately, claiming it was an accident. As time went on, his actions became bolder, and Nyen realized too late that she had become his target. Soon, the entire school saw her as his plaything, and Dong-ae used his influence to have classmates bully her. Nyen had considered asking for help, but with her father already struggling against Haegwang, she couldn't bring herself to add to his burden. Do-jin is horrified by her story, unable to believe that she's been silently suffering while maintaining a cheerful facade. He thanks her for sharing her pain and promises to make Dong-ae pay for what he's done. Meanwhile, Dong-ae, at a karaoke center, is once again harassing another girl. Her boyfriend tries to intervene, but Dong-ae quickly overpowers him, beating him senseless. The girl, trembling, begs Dong-ae to stop, and he only relents if she sings a song. As she sings, Dong finds amusement in her fear but is far more intrigued by Nyen. He reveals he's done some digging into Do-jin's life, wondering how someone like Nyen could end up with him. Wanting to see Nyen suffer, Dong-ae plans to use her distressed boyfriend to exploit her vulnerability, just as he did with the other girl. Dong-ae orders one of his goons to follow Do-jin, planning to use him as a trap. However, Do-jin is already one step ahead. He swiftly takes down the lackey with a fire extinguisher, his determination strengthening. He then heads towards Dong-ae, intent on teaching him a lesson. Dojin tells Dong-ae that Hangil had spotted the lackey trailing him earlier and guided him straight to Dong. Caught off guard, Dong-ae is blindsided when Dojin sprays him in the eyes with the fire extinguisher, ready to make him pay for what he did to Nyen.